What's up, everybody? It's your boy Øni-Kai. Welcome back to another video. This video I'll be covering today is what if Deku was the million. Hey, and tell me if you like the thumbnail, because this, in my opinion, is fire. Alright, so let's get into it. Okay, so we start this story off with Deku being about 4 years old. Now, Izuku, well, he's pretty much potty trained, right? So his mother would be helping him get onto the toilet, as Izuku would phase straight through the toilet, essentially falling through the floor, ending up into his neighbor's house. And all his clothes would fall into the toilet as well. So he would be ended up in his neighbor's house with no clothes at all. This would be the first sighting of his permeation. Now, Inko would be very shocked and wondered where he had gone, as he quite literally just went straight through the toilet. In this version, Deku's father, let's just say, had some type of quirk where he can phase one part of his body at a time. So Inko would take Deku to the quirk doctor after finding where he was. Leading up to this, essentially the doctor would tell Izuku his quirk was called permeation, and he most likely would not be able to control it. This would strike a change in Deku's personality. Instead of him being shy and introverted, he would be pretty loud and confident in himself, as once the doctor said he probably would not be able to control his quirk, Deku was determined. He would essentially get home and already start training on his quirk. Now, the next day, Izuku would be going to school. Once Inko drops him off, he would arrive there to see everyone crowded around a table. He would get up closer to see the sight of Bakugo standing on a table, flashing his quirk, little sparks coming off his hands, as everyone would be amazed by Bakugo's quirk and thinking he would probably be a good hero one day. This would get to Bakugo's head right before Izuku would appear, saying, "Hey, look at my quirk too," as he would permeate his hand, sticking it through the table, and everyone would be just as amazed as Izuku's quirk. The teacher would walk over, saying, "Both of you will most likely be great heroes, but let's just lay off on the quirk uses for now, okay?" As both Bakugo and Deku would nod, and they would sit back down next to each other, smirking at each other, as they would be going to lunch or recess or whatever. They would then begin to use their quirks again. Bakugo would ask if Deku can use any other part of his body to phase. Izuku would nod, saying, "Yes, my quirk is called permeation, but if I use it on my entire body, I end up phasing through the ground and leaving me naked." So, Deku would ultimately be smart enough to not use his quirk at school fully. As Deku would be walking home, not walking home, Inko would pick up Deku and Bakugo being there, and he would ask if he wants to come to their house. So they would essentially go to his mom's house, to Bakugo's, and then ask if he could go to theirs. She would say yes, and then Deku and Bakugo will just start training in Izuku's room. So, we get the events of Bakugo and Deku sparring. Bakugo shooting explosions at Deku, but Deku would permeate that part of his body. He would then begin working on permeating his entire body after Bakugo left, So, now we get the events of the Sludge Villain arc. Izuku would continue to train as he would work on jumping through building to building, and he also didn't have as much punching power as many. So he would work on striking pressure points, working on ancient Chinese like pressure point paralysis, like for like 10-minute paralysis or something. So the opponent would be paralyzed for about 10 to 15 minutes. And he would work on just palm strikes and things like that. And also more a strategic approach. Muriel was more brute forced, But yeah, so Izuku would be training a lot. Now, we get Izuku's walking home after a pretty long day of school. He takes a shortcut because he wants to get home and take a nap really quick. So, he'll be walking through the tunnel as right behind him, the sewer cap would pop open. And he would hear someone say, "Kid, you're my real hero, As Izuku would turn around, seeing the sludge villain about to pounce on him, he would permeate everything but his feet, phasing through the sludge villain before attacking it, punching the sludge villain. It would not do anything. I mean, he's basically water, so it really would not do anything until Izuku would just be staying permeated until All Might arrived. So All Might would be there, and seeing the sludge villain unable to take out Izuku, he would say, "Hey kid, you okay?" And Izuku would answer saying, "Yeah, I mean, this villain right here is trying to take a hold of my body, but he can't. I'm phasing through him, but I can't exactly attack him in any good way either." So All Might would look at this kid. He would look at Izuku, seeing how he was kind of scrawny, not that much muscle, but he mentioned phasing through. By the way, in this version, Muriel is quirkless. So he would actually be getting one for all, and All Might would already have given one for all to Muriel. So Izuku would just sum up what happened and then get his autograph and go home. And by the way, in this version, Izuku's not really a fanboy. He's not even to a bit. He's just nonchalant, but gets super happy at the thought of just saving people. So we now get Izuku arriving home, and it would actually have been the last day of school, right? So he would start his 10-month training. Now, Izuku, like I said before, he goes for more of the strategic attacks, and he goes for pressure points and paralyzing with his fingers and stuff. So he would just he would be on Daytona Beach. Not Daytona Beach. I forgot what the beach is called. But he would be on the beach picking up lots of trash. And then he would end up working on bouncing from underground. So he would phase through the ground, bounce back up, attack, then phase again. It would be very much like Muriel, but not quite at that level. Let's say Muriel when he was like fresh into UA. Now, Izuku would just keep training, and we now get the events of the entrance exam. So, Izuku aces the practical test in the classroom, the writing exam. He would get 101 points because he would actually have extra credit for doing his analysis. So, now we get into the robot portion. Izuku would phase straight through the gates, not even waiting for President Mike to say go, as everyone would say, "Hey, he's cheating," but President Mike would say, "No, he's not. Go, go, go." There's no countdowns in a real battle, as they would all rush through the gates, and Izuku would have already taken down 4 robots before people had even started pouring out the gates. giving him about 20 points or so, taking out 4 5-pointers before rushing in, jumping in the air, phasing upwards towards a building. So what he would do is he would wall run, but since he jumped before he started phasing, his momentum would carry because he's basically just air when you think about it, once he's permeated. So once he's already permeated, he's basically air, so he would carry his momentum straight upwards, as Izuku would just be essentially flying, but nobody could really see him because he was through a building. So he would reappear at the top of the building, crashing down onto a robot. He would phase through it and go inside its core before ripping it out into pieces. He would then phase through, going and doing the same to many other robots. Now, the exam room would almost be over, but everyone would hear this giant rumble. As everyone would start running and screaming, Deku would turn his head to see the 0-pointer emerging, and he would hear another scream. Turning his head to see Uraka trapped under a giant rock. I don't understand why she didn't just use her gravity quirk to save herself. She was already touching the rock, but I digress. So, Izuku would rush over to Uraka, phasing straight through the rock, ending up inside of it. He would not be able to breathe at this point, as he's literally inside a rock, and then he would bust through it, completely exploding it. And he would realize he could do this with other robots. So he would go to a robot, phase into it, and he would essentially be able to control it. By looking at some wires, he would be able to move the robot as if he was in a mech suit. Then he would use it to charge at the 0-pointer before punching it, and then right as the 0-pointer is about to hit it, he'd phase out, hitting its by the way, all the robots have that little red spot, and that's their weakness. So he would essentially get out of the robot, using his newfound strength that he got out of nowhere, pulled straight out of the Toon Force, throwing that robot he was recently in at the 0-pointer, making it tumble over, as the exam would end with a big bang. Okay, so now let's just say Izuku got 40 rescue points and 127 robot points. So for a total of 167 hero points. Okay, so now we get the events of Izuku beginning classes. So he would walk into the class to see Bakugo, as he would sit down next to him, not really paying attention to Aizawa. I mean, he noticed him, but he doesn't really care that much. As Aizawa would wake up saying, "It took you 8 seconds to quiet down. That's not gonna cut it here." As everyone would just feel a shiver down their spines before Aizawa would begin to say, "Follow these on and put me outside." Wait, what? Put these on and follow me outside. As everyone would follow him outside, and then he would essentially just he would toss the ball to Deku, as he would tell him to throw the ball. As Deku would say, "Don't know any way that my quirk would help." So essentially he would just be ending up throwing the ball, getting 80 meters, as his quirk would not help in this test. And with the 50-meter dash, that would help because he can go under the ground and move faster than a lot. So he would get like a 2-second 50-meter dash, and then with the repeated side steps, he would just constantly go underground, like in the momentum. It's like if you have a life vest in a pool, like, and if you get in the water, you bounce back up, right? That's what Izuku would be doing. Like, he has an advantage. While he's permeated, he creates his own vantage points, if that makes sense. So essentially, like, while he's permeated, he only needs one part of his body phasing. While he's fully permeated, he only needs one part of his body phasing through something. Then he's able to create his own vantage points. So he would just basically be bouncing up and down or side to side really fast. And it would seem like he's almost teleporting, but he's really essentially flying. With the grip strength, he would do really good, and the push-ups he'd actually get the best score. So in this timeline, at this moment in the story, Izuku would be pretty buff. Like, he would have like muscles. Not like in the thumbnail just yet, but yeah, he would be pretty buff, if I say so myself. So, in total, Izuku would end up getting, let's see, he would get second place to Momo Yaoyorozu, and third place would be ending up Todoroki. Yeah. Okay, so now we're skipping to the last period of the day for Izuku and Class 1A. So this would be the hero versus villain trials. I still don't know what to call it, but we're calling it that. So, of course, the team would be Izuku and Araka, and they would against Bakugo and Tenya. As essentially, the game plan for Deku and Araka would be Araka would actually rush into battle. She would slide under Bakugo's right hook before floating up in the air. Then Izuku would travel above the bomb room before permeating through the floor, touching the bomb. So they would execute this plan perfectly. And of course, Izuku is smart and he knows Bakugo's patterns. He knew he would come around the corner throwing a right hook, and most likely would have told Tenya to wait in the bomb room. So with this plan being executed almost perfectly, the match would have ended in about 30 seconds. And just for the fun, Deku wouldn't actually touch the bomb right when he dropped into the room. He would purposely make it seem like he missed the bomb, but he just wanted to fight someone, as he would punch Ida in the face before sliding under his legs, dodging a reciprocal burst kick, and then paralyzing him for about 15 minutes with a pressure point attack. So now we get into the USJ arc, and that is where I'll be ending this video, because I gotta go watch the OKC versus Pacers game. Let me know who you think's gonna win this series, because I'm about the Pacers. Okay, bye.